Hello, I'm Cheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York. Welcome to One to One. I'm delighted to welcome Jane Hoffman to the program today. 11 years ago, this former tax and estate lawyer turned in her gray suits and black pumps when she founded and became the first chair of the Mayor's Alliance for New York City's Animals, a nonprofit that, interestingly enough, has no connection to the mayor. What does the organization do, and what made a nice corporate lawyer choose to represent animals instead of people? We'll find out in this half hour. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I remember perhaps 10 or 15 years ago, there was a whole lot of talk about the large number of stray and abandoned and abused animals that were being euthanized in New York City. I mean, it was sort of common knowledge that if an animal stayed in a shelter for more than 3 days, he or she was a goner.
Right.
That the shelters were largely a killing machine. Was that perception true, and has that changed?
I think it sadly was true. Just to give you some numbers, in 2003, which was sort of the first full year of operation of the Alliance, almost 32,000 cats and dogs were killed at Animal Care and Control of New York City, which is actually a not-for-profit, but contracts with the Department of Health to provide animal care and control services to New York City. And you know, by building the coalition that is the Alliance, we've managed to reduce that as of last year to just under 6,000 animals.
From more than 30,000?
32,000.
Okay,
yes,
okay.
Yeah. So, you know, we're trending in the right direction. We've still got some more work to do, but things have really turned around in New York City with respect to our stray, abused, and abandoned animals since the creation of the Alliance.
Now, at one point, it was the ASPCA or the SPCA?
ASPCA,
okay.
Yes. The ASPCA had the contract, and when they took it over 100 years ago, they really were coming in to put a humane face on animal control. Before that, you know, the city had done some sort of terrible things to get rid of stray dogs and stray cats. They came in to be the humane face. But in about '92, they decided, as did many other humane associations and societies across the country, that they would put their money and their efforts into increasing adoption, increase spay-neuter, increase humane education, and that
instead of running shelters.
Exactly. They have an adoption center in New York City still, the ASPCA. And they're a very big part and one of the founding members of the Alliance. But basically they said municipalities should be doing animal control. That is a state function, a city function. They should be providing animal control. So the Animal Care and Control of New York City was created to accept the contract after the ASPCA relinquished it.
Okay. So how does it work? I mean, in terms of when there are stray animals running around a neighborhood, or abandoned animals, or there is a complaint of that animals are being abused. Who do you go to, or who steps in?
Right, who do you call? It's basically a whole changed universe now. The ASPCA had humane law enforcement powers. They really are the ones who investigated and followed up on animal cruelty. As of the beginning of this year, they made sort of a historic agreement with NYPD. That NYPD would actually take over enforcement of cruelty laws, which makes a lot of sense because there's about, 35,000 NYPD officers.
Okay.
There's at best 20 agents of the ASPCA. And the ASPCA is still standing behind humane law enforcement efforts with their forensics. They're bringing in sort of their expertise. They will take the animals, they will care for them in their hospital, they will provide forensic backup for investigations. But it's really NYPD now. So if a person who investigate animal cruelty. So if a person sees animal cruelty and it's an active crime, just like it is for any other crime, you can call 911. For everything else, you're supposed to call 311. And they're now actually, as they're beginning to build, I understand, a animal cruelty unit. There's one sergeant who is going to begin to build that unit so that they can effectively investigate animal cruelty in New York City.
And if you see strays, who do you call? Who do you call?
Well, fortunately in New York City in the 70s, we actually had dog packs running through the city. That has improved dramatically. I think it's people realize if they can no longer keep their pet, they really should bring it to Animal Care and Control. Because of the progress we made, your animal has a wonderful chance at either being transferred to one of the rescue partners that's part of the coalition and be adopted, or they'll adopt out directly. So we're much better on the dog front. The cat front, not so much, because unfortunately people seem to think cats can survive outside on their own. They're not. They're domestic animals, they're not wild animals, even if they've been out there. So that's why the Alliance created the Feral Cat Initiative, which sponsors what's called Trap, Neuter, Return, which is a cat is humanely trapped, it's neutered, it's vaccinated against rabies, against disease, its left ear tip is cut off under anesthesia so it can be identified, and then it's returned to its home where it was trapped, where it has a caretaker. So people should call, if they see an injured animal, they should call 311, which will get in touch with Animal Care and Control of New York City. If they see cruelty, they should call 311 and ask for NYPD.
Okay, okay. Now, are there still dog catchers in New York City?
Well, you know, that's a really good question, because just this year as well, field operations, which is what it's called at Animal Care and Control, has really taken a big step forward to be an educational force in communities to talk to people about how to take care of their animals. They're not just out there being dog catchers. They're trying to help people understand how to be responsible pet owners. If they have to take an animal in, especially injured, they are responsible for picking up injured or dangerous animals in New York City.
Okay. So what were the initial goals of the Alliance?
The initial goals of the Alliance was to build a coalition that was sufficient to help get animals out of animal care and control quickly enough so that, because, well, let me explain. Animal care and control is what we call an open admission shelter. They must take out any animal brought to their door. You can imagine with a city of 8.3 million, how many people have pets. A lot of animals flow into animal care and control every day. When they don't have space, they have to euthanize or start killing animals. So what we do is we created this marketing and distribution network, harking back to my Wall Street days, to get animals marketed to these partners, retailers, if you will, from wholesalers, animal care and control, and then distribute them out to those partners to help get them home. So it was to reduce euthanasia at Animal Care and Control of New York City.
Are there a lot more partners now than there were when the Alliance started?
Yes, when we started we had 5 members, which were basically the brick and mortar shelters, the ASPCA, Humane Society of New York, etc. Now we have over 150 animal rescue groups and shelters that are working with us.
And you were helped by something called Maddie's Fund. What's Maddie's Fund?
Maddie's Fund is this wonderful family foundation in California. Dave and Cheryl Duffield. Dave is one of the people who created PeopleSoft. Now he has Workday, fabulously wealthy gentleman, family. And he was helped very much when he was making, I guess, having some hard times before he made his first millions, and named Maddie. And he basically said, working with San Francisco SPCA Richard Avanzino president, that he wanted to put his money towards helping animals, to make New York, not New York, only New York City, but the entire country, what he called no kill, which means we don't kill healthy or treatable animals simply because we don't have homes for them right now. And we do that by increasing adoptions, increase spay-neuter so they're not born, no unwanted pregnancies. And he devotes himself basically to animals and children, two of the most vulnerable populations.
So tell me about some of your, I mean, you talked about the cat neutering program. Do you also do that for dogs, or? Well,
we're wonderfully blessed in New York because we have the ASPCA, which has 2 spay-neuter clinics for the public and for the rescue groups. They do, I think they did 60,000 spay-neuter surgeries last year. We have the Humane Society of New York, which has an animal clinic which does spay-neuter, and we have the Toby Project, which is one van that goes around and does spay-neuters for the public. So we're very blessed, and we have built an amazing capacity to deliver spay-neuter to the pets of New Yorkers.
So tell me about some of your other initiatives since you started.
Sure. I mentioned that it was partially marketing and partially distribution. We have a program called Wheels of Hope, which is 6 sort of customized cargo vans that are made to transport animals safely and comfortably. And we do that because most of these rescue groups are, in fact, volunteers. They work full-time. This is their passion, but it's not their full-time job. So to get the animals out of animal care and control as quickly as possible to the groups that they work with, to either their veterinarians, their fosters, their boarding facility, if it's a shelter, to their shelter, we've created this program that works very closely with what is called the New Hope Department at Animal Care and Control of New York City, which works with the rescue groups to get the animals out. So we have the Feral Cat Initiative of New York City. We have the Wheels of Hope. We, of course, do these mega adoptions. We did the Maddie's Pet Adoption Days, which was adoption fee waived. It was amazing. We adopted over 5,000 animals at that
Wow.
weekend.
Was that something at sites around the city?
Yes, we had a major event, a mega event at Union Square across from Petco. Petco Foundation also helped us with that, as well as New York City Parks. So that was a mega event with, I think we had 90 groups participating there. And then everybody adopted at their location, be it in a PetSmart, a Petco, a private pet store that they were affiliated with, on the internet. So it was, yes, it was a massive event. We also just finished Adopt-A-Palooza, which we also have.
Adopt-A-Palooza?
Adopt-A-Palooza, yes, which was in Union Square, which is an educational and an adoption event.
Okay.
And the public love it.
I do see a lot more Adopt-A-Pet events, small ones on the street,
Yeah.
and sometimes in the park.
Yeah.
Effective?
Very effective. It's very effective because at the Adopt-A-Palooza, we had OEM, the Office of Emergency Management, telling people how to prepare their pets who are part of their family in case we have a disaster of any kind. New York City Department of Health was there, dog licensing, which is the law, and also one of the best ways to get your pet home, cat or dog. We're also doing microchipping, which is very simple. We do it very cheaply for people, and we register the chip for them because a lot of people think it's LoJack, but it's really just a chip we put in the back of the neck of the animal.
How much does that cost?
When we do it, it's about $25.
Okay.
You can also get it done at various locations. If you go onto our website, you can find locations when
Okay.
we're not having an event. But we also have fun events like face painting, activities for children. People are there, of course, having cats, dogs, and rabbits available for adoption. But it's this combination, how to be responsible pet ownership. There's trainers on hand to work with, you to teach you that, we go to school for how many years to learn how to act in society? Why do we expect our dogs to know immediately
Right.
what we want them to do?
Right.
So it's a combination, education, adoption, and just a fun day in the park.
Okay. We're going to take a short break, then we'll be back after this message. Welcome back to One to One. I'm Cheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York, and I'm speaking with Jane Hoffman, chairman of the Mayor's Alliance for New York City's Animals. Are there more pets being trained to help the sick and the elderly?
There's a wonderful movement that started a couple of years ago with what are called therapy animals. They go into hospitals to visit with people, if of course they're comfortable, nursing homes. And then there's service animals, which of course are helping people with a variety of disabilities, such as, the most famous ones obviously are the seeing eye dogs. But there's really a whole increase in the number of dogs that are used for people with MS, for instance, that have trouble with their balance. So animals, are not only just good for our health in general, studies have proven that lowers our stress levels, lowers our blood pressure, but they also provide invaluable services to us, either just as therapy animals or, in fact, as delivering specific services.
Right. I actually know a few people who claim that their dogs are service dogs,
Yes.
even though they're really just pets.
Yes.
Do you have any problem with that?
Well, I think it's when people push the envelope a little too far, it turns out to be a problem for the really legitimate uses of some of these animals. I think the problem is, sometimes people have disabilities that we don't know, we don't recognize, and they in fact do have a need for that animal. But there are growing instances where I think people are trying to get over a little bit by calling their animals service animals. But there's things like, for instance, I really think Department of Health needs to reevaluate having some level of animals in restaurants, especially outdoor cafes. I know there's a movement in the rest of the country to, well-behaved, you could say, animals that are not going to pose any threat, obviously, to anybody. But, this division between, there's some kind of health problem for us, so separate, is really not healthy. I mean, the Parisians seem to have survived all these years with allowing animals into
But they're knee-deep in dog poop, aren't they?
Well, that's because they don't have pooper scooper laws,
there
which
you
we
go.
have in New York.
There you go. I know at one time there was a lot of talk about and I guess it comes up from time to time, about banning the breeding of pit bulls, because of, the reported incidents of these dogs attacking and even killing people. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, we're definitely against what we call breed discrimination. We really want to focus on the deed, not the breed. In fact, I think a lot of times the media reports attacks by pit bulls so wildly out of proportion with attacks by, frankly, other breeds because they're pit bulls.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of sort of
They're
profiling.
underreporting those Cocker Spaniel attacks, right?
Well, Cocker Spaniels are crazy. But yeah, in fact, there's a wonderful book called The Pit Bull Placebo that really talks about the media's focus that, a golden retriever could basically, bite the arm off someone and it gets 2 stories, whereas a pit bull bites somebody's pinky, there's 150 stories, which is not to say that there's responsible ownership issues here. It's really almost always when a dog behaves badly, the owner. If you go back, it's the owner.
Right.
The dog was not spayed or neutered. There's like 2 or 3 indicia for when a dog is going to get in trouble. Have they been chained out or tethered out most of their lives, which is actually against the law to do 24 hours a day in New York City. They need to be spayed and neutered. That status makes a huge, and they need to be part of the family. They need to be trained properly. So we don't really, and in New York State, it's illegal for municipalities to enact any kind of breed-specific ban.
Really? Do you have any idea what percent, now, New Yorkers love dogs everywhere. Do you have any idea what percentage of New York City pet dogs are rescue animals? Any idea?
There's a general idea that the rescue has a market share of about 25%. I think that's higher in New York because I think we've done a really good job with just the Adopt-A-Paloozas, the Maddie's Fund events. Social media has been wonderful to get the word out about how wonderful shelter animals are. So I kind of think New Yorkers know a good bargain when they see it, and a rescue animal from a rescue group or shelter is the best bargain you could have. They're spayed and neutered, they're vaccinated, most of them are microchipped, and these groups exist to make the best match possible for the pet. So I think a higher percentage than the national, 25% of animals, pets, are in fact rescue
I
animals.
know. I talked to a lot of people, and they'll say, "Well, my dog is a rescue dog."
Well, it's a badge of honor now. It's very fashionable.
Did the recession result in more animals being abandoned and neglected? And as the economy has improved, have there been fewer?
I think that New York City was fortunately, or the New York area was not as hard hit immediately by the recession with respect to pets. I think it stayed fairly constant because, as I said, 8.3 million people. There's supposed to be 1.7 million dogs or cats and 1.4 million dogs. A lot of animals, because people have individual crises, flow into New York City shelters all the time. So the recession had an effect, but I don't think it was quite as dramatic as it was in the rest of the country. People have personal tragedies all the time. We have a program called Helping Pets and People in Crisis, and that was actually put together to address the issue of pets of victims of domestic violence who have to flee their home or often don't flee their home because they will not leave their pet. Because New York City shelters, I think to our shame, don't accept pets with their families. Recently, the Urban Resource Institute, which is one of the largest providers of domestic violence sheltering in New York City, has started a program, I'm very proud to say, which we were part of putting together, to accept pets with their people. Yes, and in the shelters, in their shelters. Yeah, it's a wonderful program.
Are there boroughs that have more of a dog and cat problems, stray animal problems than others?
I think it's basically just like all the other problems in New York City, areas that have lower socioeconomic demographics have more problems. I think that we've done a good job of focusing education and services in those areas, but we need a lot of education that people should never put their pet out on the street, ever, ever, ever. If you have to give them up for whatever reason, please bring them to Animal Care and Control of New York City. Give them a second chance. Spay and neuter your pets. So the education, it needs to focus on all over the city, but spay and neuter your pets. If you must give your pet up, please do not put it on the street, especially cats. You'll just add to our community cat overpopulation problem.
I had said that the Alliance doesn't have any direct connection to the mayor's office. I mean, do you have any feelings about, was Mayor, under Mayor Bloomberg, was it good for the dogs and cats? And how's it for, under de Blasio probably hasn't
Yeah, right.
been here
He's
long
still
enough.
he's still working on some issues. I mean,
Right.
it's sort of like, in government, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We started, when Mike came into office, we signed a memorandum of understanding, non-financial, with the city, to create the corporation that was the Alliance to work with the mayor's office. So it's sort of like the President's Council on Physical Fitness, Nutrition, and
Right.
et cetera. It's not, we never thought about it being particularly connected with a specific mayor, that really it was working with the mayor's office of the city of New York, as a not-for-profit. What was great under Mike is he really valued public-private partnerships, and here we were going to bring a lot of money, a lot of
Right.
private money,
Right.
to deal with municipal issues.
Right, but you're not going to tell me that Giuliani was an anti-pet mayor.
I will neither, deny or admit.
Okay. We talked about Maddie's Fund. Other benefactors, where do you get your funding from?
Well, Maddie's Fund, obviously, we're the flow-through for those grants to our rescue groups. The ASPCA has very generously supported us, helping with a lot of operating funds. And then we raise money from the public for our very specific initiatives, like the Feral Cat Initiative, helping pets and people in crisis for domestic violence victims, Wheels of Hope. So we raise money from other foundations and private individuals who, one of our programs hopefully really resonates with them as making a real, really helping to make things better in New York City.
So, and I know you already said this, but to clarify again, the ASPCA's focus these days is primarily what?
The ASPCA's is spay-neuter. They are delivering thousands and thousands of spay-neuter surgeries, which is one of the most important things we need to do, any place needs to do. And they have their adoption center. They are big supporters of the Feral Cat Initiative. So they're really focusing on spay-neuter adoption, and they actually are a national organization. Their headquarters is here. They're often confused with local SPCA's, but they're not.
Right.
But they're working in various communities trying to help them increase adoptions, increase spay-neuter, just using this huge bank of information and knowledge that they have from being one of the oldest humane societies in the United States.
What drew you to this work?
It was sort of one of those serendipitous things. I've always cared about animals. My family always had companion animals. But I met a woman named Jolene Marion, who sadly has passed on, who was working with the Animal Legal Defense Fund, and just really felt it was important to start an animal law committee at the New York City Bar Association, and approached me and another associate at the firm at Simpson at that time, because Cy Vance was the head of Simpson Thacher and was the president of the Bar Association, and she thought we would be good messengers. So we helped found the New York City Bar Association Animal Law Committee. I then went on to do moderating a lot of programs there, and got more involved with animal rescue groups and shelters as they attended the programs. So it was sort of like this slippery slope. And then this opportunity came up with Maddie's Fund to bring a lot of money to bear on New York City, and I was asked to lead it. I was honored to be asked to lead it, and that's really why I am where I am today.
We have about a minute and a half left. So New Yorkers seem to love dogs. So to people who would like to have a dog or a cat or a rabbit or a fairy or whatever, what would you recommend that they do?
Well, I think they should look for animal rescue groups or shelters in their neighborhoods. You can go to the Animal Alliance NYC.org website, look under adoptions. It lists all of the groups. It separates them by borough. You should start looking with those groups, working with those groups. You can also go on Pet Finders to find just the right pet for yourself. But I think you need to, don't pick on color, don't pick on breed, based on your lifestyle. What do you want, a couch potato or somebody to run the marathon with you?
Your goals in the immediate future for the association?
Well, to continue to decrease euthanasia at Animal Care and Control, and to raise the profile of shelter animals as wonderful four-footed family members to add to your family. So it's really just continuing what we've been doing, executing the strategic plan we've had for the last 10 years, make New York City no-kill.
We're out of time. I want to thank Jane Hoffman for joining us today. If you'd like more information about the Mayor's Alliance for New York City's animals, go to their website at animalalliancenyc.org. For the City University of New York and 1 to 1, I'm Cheryl McCarthy. If there are any people you'd like to hear from or topics you'd like us to explore, please let us know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.